Hello, my name's Tyler Braham. I'm a special education teacher at Pikeville High School in Pikeville, Kentucky. Um, for the Transition Innovation Grant, I collaborated with Jesse Lucas, who is one of our science teachers at Pikeville High School, more specifically with his engineering class. And the title of our project was 3D Transition. And the goal for this project was to increase uh, my students' ability to be able to transition and learn the skills they would need in order to have a successful transition into a workplace setting. And so the overall goal for this project, again, is that my students with special needs would learn the skills required to have a successful transition to the workplace environment. Those skills include communication, social, soft skills, enthusiasm and attitude, teamwork, networking, problem solving, and critical thinking, and professionalism. Each one of these skills is imperative for a successful transition into the workplace environment. Not only does the student benefit greatly in, kind of easing some of their frustrations that they might have in getting a new job or going into a new environment, but also it's going to give them some confidence. They're going to feel prepared and they're going to have some independence about them. And the employers are also going to benefit because they're going to have employees that are well trained and being able to work as part of a team, to have the necessary communication and social skills and the right attitude to be able to work together for a common goal. And so the team roles in the setting for this project, obviously, I'm Mr. Branham. I took on the role of the job coach, which would kind of be like a supported employment job coach through vocational rehabilitation. The employees were my students. The employer was Mr. Lucas. He's our teacher in the engineering class. His students were my students' co-workers, and so they had to work together to learn one another, be able to communicate with one another, use the appropriate social skills and problem-solving skills to work together. And the work environment was Mr. Lucas's classroom. And so the process for this project was that I took a curriculum called Skills to Pay the Bills, which contains many of the skills that I mentioned previously. And those are all soft skills. Those are all skills that an individual would need in order to have a successful transition into the workplace environment. And so we learned those skills. We did a lot of activities that was in that workbook. We weren't able to exhaust all of them because there were many. It's such a good tool to use to teach those skills. But there's many more lessons that we can do. But anyway, we took the skills that we learned in my classroom and we tried to take what we learned and generalize those skills into Mr. Lucas's classroom, which was acting as the workplace environment. And then my students were collaborating and working together in teams with Mr. Lucas's class co-workers, and they were creating 3D keychains using the 3D printer and the software that came with it. They were creating some designs for Christmas ornaments and various other things. And our hopes at the end of the school year here were to create a retail store to be able to sell the keychains, and not really to make a profit, but more that just to maintain the supplies to keep them in store, like the filament and things, so we can continue this program. And then any extra money that we made off this, we could use for community-based instruction activities. And so we didn't get a good jump start on making on producing the keychains, but our hopes were that we would be able to set up some kind of a retail store or do a fundraiser. Maybe even doing some personalized key change with people's initials or names or school logo or mascot or something. And we hope to be able to continue this and do this next year and really bring it to completion and see the fruits of the work that we've put into it.
Hi, I'm Jesse Lucas. I'm the engineering teacher at Pikeville High School. So when we first started looking at a printer, we wanted one that was potentially easy to use, that maybe even further on in this process that the transitioning kids can actually potentially try and use it. So the one that we ended up going with was called the Maker Gear S3SE Education Package. This comes with the printer, it comes with rolls of filament, it came with a couple printing beds as well. As far as the software used, my students used a software called Autodesk Inventor. A lot of industries actually use this. So that's what they're getting their certification in. As far as the data goes, if you look at the quantitative data, we actually didn't get to raise any money this year. We did hit a couple stumbling blocks. We weren't able to sell them, like we said, those ornaments before Christmas. We also weren't able to sell any keychains in the springtime, which was kind of what our plan was. But the qualitative data, the meeting went very well. For my students, and I believe his students as well, my students worked very, very hard to accommodate them any way that they possibly could. And his students were very, very reasonable. They came up, they worked with my students. So the first meeting that we had was for the Christmas ornaments. So Mr. Branham's class came up to mine, and they already had kind of an idea of what they wanted their Christmas ornaments to be. So during this meeting, my engineering group broke into smaller subgroups with his transitional students. And they kind of decided what they wanted it to be, what they could actually do, because yet again, they were just starting this program. They weren't super great at 3D designing at that point. And then they created these ornaments. Now, right before we printed them off, the 3D printer did malfunction, so we weren't able to print them off before Christmas. So that's one reason why we weren't able to actually sell many of them. So we also have plans to potentially make keychains at the end of the year, but that's if we can actually come back to school. We don't necessarily know if we'll be able to return, so we don't know about that yet.